Well, hey everyone, here we are with David from All Funeral Services. He's the Vice President of Sales and Marketing, and he's going to jump right in with us to tell us a little about how the business started and kind of their big why. So welcome, David.
Thank you so much, Carrie. A pleasure meeting you. Thank you so much for having me on your platform. I'm a huge fan. So
Oh,
thank
thank
you so
you.
much. It's an honor indeed.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little about kind of how this company started and, the big why. Why did you start and what is your kind of vision for the company?
Yeah, thank you for that. Interestingly enough, many of us at All Funeral Services actually have been in the cemetery and funeral industry for a long, long time. And we know the immense pressure that cemetery and funeral personnel are under at any given time. I know we always used to say in our industry that we cannot be 99% perfect sometimes, but we have to be 101% perfect all the time.
So
And
true.
how hard is this to do when you don't have tools that work with you, sometimes very much against you, or
Yeah.
process that are so outdated? And so that was the idea. That's how it all came to come apart, and why we decided to have a look at all the pain points that our professionals are under and how it's affecting their health, their mental health. And so we wanted to make a difference that way. And also, quite frankly, we wanted to make a difference for the families visiting and the experience that they have when they come to the cemetery or to the funeral home. And we wanted to make sure that they had the right type of services and the right type of experience at all time.
Nice. What are some of those initial pain points? I'm picturing like a bunch of people sitting around and you're just brainstorming. What are some of those that got shouted out as you were doing some of the initial building of the business?
Yeah, there were many. I think in some ways, our industry is a little bit backward in some ways. We are a little bit afraid of change, on the leadership aspect of things. And so we are cautioned, shall we say, at least, to make any changes. And so that's really reflected in the end result now. So, when you think about the amount of double data entry, for example, that is required when we meet with a family, because we have different type of database, we have different system in place, and they don't connect to one another, they're not integrated in any ways. And that really is prone to, first of all, wasting time and wasting revenue, that's for sure. But the end result is really a lot of possible errors that can occur because of that. And, errors is not something that we can afford in our industry at all. And so we really wanted to minimize this. But I'll give you an example. I was talking to a cemetery not too long ago. And, when somebody comes to purchase a space, or to do an interment, for example, they actually have to go to all dusty files, try to find an index card that has basic information on it, that's going to bring them to a contract in another filing cabinet, that's going to bring them to an interment folder in another cabinet, that's going to bring them to a book or some type of a garden book. And it just doesn't make sense. It's wasted time, and it doesn't really help the individual. So another aspect of it too is the amount of time that it takes to find information when somebody stops by the cemetery and say, "Hey, I would love to find my mom." I mean, again, very often they have to go to old ledgers and garden maps and so on and so forth. So we wanted to nip this in the bud and really provide amazing tools for the cemetery and funeral professionals, so that they have everything at their fingertips.
Well, and I think that's such a good point. In our industry across the board, we're slow to make changes. And a huge proponent of that is technology. I used to cover for a funeral home, and we had 3 different places. They kept all the same information. There was a ledger here, there was a ledger in the hallway in the closet, and then there was the actual file that we were using, and I had to hand type, and I'm talking typewriter, not computer, hand type on a typewriter every one of those, and it was all the same information. I said, why do you do it this way? Well, that's how it's been done for 100 years. So why would we change it at this point? And I'm like, but why 3? Well, that's just how we've done it. And so it really takes slow, across the board time for people to change within this business, which I don't know. I've never understood. Nobody can quite explain it, but I love the new technology that is coming out like this to allow us to put data in one place, update everything, but it's taking also that old data and getting an input. Now, I know your main focus is cemeteries. You also have something for crematories, and we'll talk about that a little later. So explain to me how your My Cemetery app and what it is working with a cemetery that you do. It's not just an app that you can get, but it's how you work with the cemetery. So explain that whole process and what it is you offer for them.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. Well, again, the idea was really to provide an all-inclusive, holistic version of a software for the cemetery and for the crematorium as well. And so the idea was really to provide something that will help not only with the admin aspect of it, but really with everything else, right? Making a sale or providing spaces to the community that we serve. Helping with the operation aspect of it, with work order and such, the management of the spaces, and clearly also, and something that's really missing in all aspects, is the relationship and enduring relationship that we have with our family. So we wanted to have something that really touches on all of that. So what we came up with is a system that offers a lot of personalization, first of all, because let's face it, no cemetery is operated the same way.
No.
They're all operated slightly, and even so slightly different. And I can tell you that I work in the same company for 15 years and then another one for another few years. Even within the same companies, cemeteries are slightly operated differently based on where they are located, based on the history that they have, and based on the clientele that they're serving. And so we wanted to have something that is not rigid, something that can be transformed to fit you like a glove with the operations that you have. Cemetery personnel should not have to change the way they are doing unless there's a better way to do it, but they shouldn't necessarily have to change it and adapt to technology. Technology should be able to adapt to them. And that's exactly what we came up with.
So if a cemetery says, I really want to get my data and my documents and all of my ledgers and my maps and things in order, how does that initial start with you? Like, what is that process, that onboarding that they would go through with you? And what does then the end result look like for the cemetery personnel and a consumer?
Yeah. So that's very important, because I think sometimes, Carrie, that's kind of the stop that we see in organization, where they say, "Ooh, this is a lot of unknown." And what do we do as human when we don't know something? We tend to shy away from it and just put it for tomorrow, right? So we're very transparent and communicate very effectively with the companies that we serve to let them know that we have a very clear process. And really, if I have to put it in a few words, what we're going to do is that we are going to come over and we are going to take your digital footprints. We're going to take your ledgers, your index card, your physical footprints, in essence. And we are going to scan everything, all your operations, and we are going to digitize every single piece of information that you have that allows us to understand why David Warner is buried in your cemetery. So all of that's going to get digitized. The information is then going to be transferred into our system, into the database that we have, and then all the artifacts themselves are going to be available online now. When that's done, we're going to go and take pictures of your spaces and the monuments. We're going to hook it up to GPS. It's all GPS enhanced, and we are going to do a complete audit between what you have in the office and what we find on the ground. So we're going to do a reconciliation of that. And if we find any disconnect, we're going to be able to come to you, and you're going to be able to be first proactive and be able to handle those situations. And on the other hand, hopefully you'll be able to find a few spaces that you didn't even know you had, and you'll be able to provide them to families that way. So it's very important to know that we can be hands-on and do everything. Where we come, we take over, we do everything for you. But if there's some companies that want to have, that want to do some of that part themselves, that's totally fine. We have plan and procedures for that, and we'll be happy to help anyways.
Now, in some prior conversation, am I remembering correctly, some ground penetrating radar type service as well, that you can help check graves to see if there's actually somebody buried there or not buried there? How does that part? Tell me a little about that.
Yeah, there's all kind of technology available now. I think there's not one cemetery that doesn't have at least an area, an older area, or an area that they know less about, or perhaps in many cases they've lost the information due to fires or water damage and so on. And so I think every cemetery have at least a few spaces where, like, we're not quite sure about this location here, so we're just going to put it aside and not talk about it. So we have technology that we can employ. We partner with some companies in North America that can come indeed and do ground penetrating radar. There's new technology that's even better now that's available. So if you have those situations, we'll be happy to help and bring them to light. It's not necessarily to fix every single problem, but at least to know and to understand where they are located and what we're dealing with. That's going to allow the company to make the right decisions.
Now, I don't want to get into costs. I think that's something that you and the cemeteries you work with can discuss, directly. But how would a cemetery get in touch with you to begin the process or to find out costs? Do they just email? Do they need to call? What would that beginning look like?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's many ways to get in touch with us. I think the easiest way is really to go on our website, but they can certainly find us online. They can find us on social media. And I always find that the best way is to have a look at it firsthand. Seeing is believing.
Yeah.
And so what we do first and foremost is that we do a quick demo. It's anywhere between 30 to 45 minutes where we explain the program, and we can really understand what the client's needs are, and make sure that we are really relevant to what they want and their vision. And that really allows us to then continue the conversation and make decisions based on that. Usually the next step after that is perhaps to do a pilot project when we can showcase our capabilities, and after that, a full collaboration. So we have a very collaborative approach when it comes into pricing. And to date, I never had a client that we were not able to help, financially speaking, and I doubt that anybody listening will be the first one.
Nice. Now, as you're talking, I'm thinking of cemeteries, and the one locally, there was the cutest old gentleman. He worked, I think he was over 90 when he finally quit running the cemetery and being like the caretaker out there. And they found pieces of paper in his old work truck he used to ride around in, and that was his method of keeping information. Like, Samuel Smith, Lot L, that's how he kept track. And they were stuffed everywhere in his truck and another country cemetery. And every once in a while we would get a call. We ran into an old casket that was probably here from when it was farmland. So we have to find new spaces for the family. So we need to connect with them before we can do the burial. You do run into these things, and especially these older cemeteries and older areas out in the country and things that they are missing maybe a lot of that older information from when it first started, because I'm guessing 150 years ago, cemeteries, as they started, they were just, okay, let's bury people here, but you don't really forward think, okay, 200 years from now, what's going to happen here? And do we need to actually track things here, and who is here? And cemeteries have a small margin of error when it comes for burials. And I talk about this, that burials have to be within a certain space of each other. I mean, vaults are only about this far apart from each other in the ground, a foot, not even a foot away from each other down on the ground. And so if you miss a space or something and lose that, that lot to sell or make use of, you really are doing a disservice to your community by not having as much space available. So I think this really helps get things in order and bring a team in to do that, where people don't have teams like that for cemeteries often that can really do that back history and get it all laid out. And, Find a Grave helped some places where they got the volunteers to take pictures and things, but it's not always the most accurate. It's not always identified correctly by lot and grave number and such. And I remember a gentleman recently posted on Facebook in the small town I grew up in, and he said, I see a picture of the headstone on Find a Grave. I know it's there somewhere, but nobody can find the map. Yeah. Township is never open. I can't get anybody to answer phone calls. Nobody has it because it's a little town. And I can't find this grave. He's like, I've walked the cemetery so many times and I can't find it. This would be a great answer for that situation. So can consumers, when that cemetery is in place and it's in this My Cemetery app, is that something consumers can go on and pull up and look at the cemetery and maybe pick a grave and things like that? Like, from the consumer standpoint, what does this look like and how does it benefit them?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, we often forget that cemetery preserve local history. Mm-hmm. And it's a huge deal. I mean, because it really tells us where we come from and what we hear. And to your point, the amount of knowledge that some of those sexton and some of those cemetery workers have in their head.
Yeah.
Never mind the pile of paper that is in their office. And so when we lose them, we lose that knowledge, we lose that history. It's gone forever. Yeah. And it's just not viable. It's not viable at all. So to answer your question, yeah, so that was a huge deal for us as well. We wanted to make sure, I don't know if you heard this before, but I heard this probably 20 years ago when I started in this industry. Somebody told me, David, people need to have a place to say goodbye. They need to have a time to say goodbye and a place to say hello. And the time to say goodbye is the funeral, and a place to say hello is the cemetery. And so how frustrating is it when you go to a cemetery to pay your respect and you gather the courage to go there and meet your fear and meet your emotions front end, and you go there and you can't find the person you're looking for.
Yeah.
And, I've seen so many people, even in my own cemeteries, that were wandering from grave to grave, spending 2-3 hours because they didn't even know they could come and ask. Mm. With our system, we have revolutionized that. Anyone can now go on internet. They can go on the website, and they'll have a place to put somebody's name in it, and they will be able to find that information. So not only that, but they'll be able to find information, but they'll be able to find picture of the markers and the monument. They'll be able to find an obituary, perhaps, that a family member has put with some pictures, which we have available now too. They'll be able to even order flowers right from there if they want to. It's a huge deal. All my family is in Switzerland. I'm the only one here with my wife and my kids. Mm. And my grandparents meant the world to me. They really did. And they passed away while I was here, and I was young at the time, and no money, and I couldn't pay a ticket to go and be there for the funeral. And I miss them dearly. And I would love to put flowers on their space once in a while. But it's so complex and it's so hard that I've given up a long time ago. But imagine if you could go on a website, find grandpa and grandma, be there, have that experience of being there, even if it's virtually, but you have pictures, you have the whole area, you can visit the cemetery virtually and so on. And now you can go right ahead and order some pictures. You can order some a winter wreath. You can either order whatever you want, and it's going to be put there and it's going to be done. And you're going to get confirmation, by the way, that this is going to be done that way. What an experience for families, whether they're able to visit on the ground or they're able to visit virtually. So that was what we wanted to offer, the experience we wanted to offer.
And you have UAV or drone video and photos of the cemeteries as well. So it's not just picture of the headstone. It is a much more comprehensive visual for the cemetery and the area and kind of what's around there, correct?
100%. Yeah, absolutely. So we work with different means to achieve this. Some of them easier than others, but we always ensure that the what the customer is seeing, so the end result of what the customer is seeing, is top notch every single time. So yeah, often we use drones, but we have other means as well. And we want to ensure that that the experience is there, and that they don't have to squint trying to understand what is going on and where it's located. The feature and the app that we have is jam packed with features, absolutely jam packed with features. Consider this for a minute. Right when they go on the website and they type John Smith, they're gonna go and have access to the basic information. They're gonna have access to the pictures. They're gonna be able to share all this with their family members, right? So if I finally find Grandpa and I wanna send my family the information right from there, I can send via email or social media with the preloaded information so that everybody knows and has access to it. But on top of that, they'll have access to a QR code where they can scan it, and they'll have access to GPS location. That means that right from their home, they'll be able to get to the cemetery and go directly to the place, even in winter when there's 5 feet of snow and we can't see the markers and monuments, right? Yes. So they'll know exactly where to go. So we wanted to really make it as user-friendly as possible, as useful as possible, so that there's absolutely no excuse to go and say hi to Grandma.
Now you can attach documents to each burial that are there. What extent of documents? I mean, kind of like ancestry.com, can you put birth certificates, death certificates? Like, can people load in their own documents, or is it just the basic documents from the cemetery?
Yeah, so there's two aspects of information and two levels of information that the community has. One, it's the community at large, and that's to find the basic information of somebody that has passed away with whatever else the family has put out there. Again, it could be picture, it could be photos, it could be a link to YouTube videos, could be just about anything that you can think of.
Okay.
But families themselves, listen, how many times I got a phone call from a family telling me, "Shish, David, I don't know what I've done with my contract. I don't know what I've done with my deeds, right? I don't know what's in the contract." Or how many times we have a family that, believe, or maybe heard 20 years ago that everything was paid for, when in fact it's not. And so we really wanted to offer the opportunity for cemeteries to be transparent, to offer that trust that families absolutely require. And for that, we invented the family portal.
Okay.
The family portal, in essence, Carrie, is an online portfolio of what they've done with the cemetery. It's a very secure area. Only they have access to it, and they can log in. They can have access to their contract. They can have access to their and download it if they want to print it. They have access to their deeds. They have access to any correspondence that the family wants to make available. They'll probably have access to download the rules and regulations as well, if they need to have that, and the hours of operations. And more importantly, they can actually even make payments right from the portal. So I'm in Vancouver, right? I'm in Vancouver right now. If I want to make a payment for my mom that lives in Los Angeles, for example, I can do so right from here. I don't need to send a check. I don't need to phone them with my credit cards. And it's very secure, very convenient. And it makes, again, the experience so much better.
Well, and not even just making the payment, but there's times where, like, we have a deaf local, the family lives far out of town, and they want to come in only when we're going to be doing the service. It might be a week out, it might be a week and a half for a burial, but they still need to buy a grave space.
Yeah.
They can't do it right when they get here because they may just be coming into town for the service. So they need to purchase ahead of time, but there's documents to sign, there's payment to be made. And so they can get on and do e-signing through this. They can make payment through it. They can get a really good visual of where that grave space is in the cemetery, rather than, okay, section 10 sounds great, just pick me one there. Some people really are particular. They want to be on a fence row, or they want to be by the woods, or they want to be, near a water spigot, or they want to be near the road so they don't have to walk far because of maybe their age. And so they have really specific requests, but this really can show them and give them a good visual of where that grave is. So it's maybe not as unfamiliar when they do get there and attend that service that day.
That's exactly it. And very interestingly enough, we can even set it up where either the families can go online again. And here's a good example of this. How many times as professionals we get the price shopper, right? The individual that phones you and just want to get the prices. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want you to ask me questions. I just want to get the price. And that's typical of a few different scenarios where a family actually is either disillusioned by our industry, which unfortunately has happened and is still happening. It could be individuals that, quite frankly, just don't know what to do and they don't want to be taken advantage of.
Yeah.
But often it's people that are grieving already, perhaps pre-grieving, but they are grieving and they are not themselves. So instead of trying to force our own way on them, why not make that journey as pleasant as possible?
Yeah.
That's what we created with the lot locator that we have available online as well, where families can actually go and browse the spaces that you have available.
Nice.
We can set it up where families can actually ask to reserve a spot until they are able to come and talk to you. And in some cases, we can even have the families purchase right online if that's what you want. So we can really make that journey as easy, as simple, and quite frankly, make it more or better integrated with your operations. And if you want to reduce the amount of work that your cemetery personnel is under, this is a great way to go about it.
It's always a positive right there. Is always a positive.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now let's talk a little about the My Crematorium app. Now, we were discussing this earlier, and in places where funeral homes have a crematorium in-house, or cemeteries where you have a crematorium in-house, may not be as necessary. But like in Michigan, where we can't yet have crematories and cemeteries and funeral homes all in one, it's called a monopoly law. It is really actually could be beneficial. I'm thinking of one of our local crematories that does a huge number of cremations. And this app allows funeral homes to go on, input all the information about the deceased, upload all the paperwork, and basically make a reservation for bringing the deceased to the crematory rather than, hey, I'm bringing over Bob Smith, drop off all the paperwork, and then the crematory has to do all the entry and all of everything. It really can create a better flow for a crematory. So tell us a little more about that app, more than what I've just said.
Listen, you said it very well, Carrie.
Thanks.
That's exactly what it's about.
I'm for hire for any commercial. There you go. There.
Well, that would be a privilege. You're absolutely right. The idea behind My Crematorium was really to streamline operations. Again, there was a lot of stress points, pain points in that process, lots of manual labor and manual data entry, duplication, and redundant tasks. So we streamlined the entire operations where everything can be done through the app or through the computer at the crematorium. We enter the information once. And more importantly, it is shared with all the necessary parties so that there's no misunderstanding, there is nothing missing, no omission, no commission. So talking about it like this really doesn't do it justice. Same as with the rest of our platform. This is why I really invite everybody to take the time. Take 15. If you only have 15, 20 minutes, we'll do the demo in 15, 20 minutes. Spare that time and come and have a look at how intuitive, automated, insight-driven, personalized, secure, intuitive. I mean, it is absolutely splendid, and it makes your life so much easier. Imagine a way where a funeral home can actually have their own portal to your crematorium, where they can actually go and have a look. what time available do you have? When's the next time? Right now, the way it works with most funeral homes, and please tell me if anything has changed, but we meet with the family, and whether it's the cemetery or the crematorium, it's the same concept. We meet with the family, we obviously ask them what they would like and how they would like it, and then we decide on a date, right? If we would like to have it on Friday, so we go and check a schedule, perhaps we check the church schedule as well, and then what do? We either phone the crematorium or we phone the cemetery. If the operators are not available, what do? We stop everything. We halt everything, and we just wait until somebody gets back to us. Now, if it's the day where the backhoe gets serviced at the funeral at the cemetery, or if we have a backlog of cremation, we got to go back to the family and say, okay, this is not available. Let's choose another date. And then guess what? We redo the whole damn thing again.
Yeah.
And sometimes we can go back and forth a few times, which when you think about it, makes no sense. How is this helping the families that we're serving?
Right.
How much stress is it adding to a grieving family already? So imagine this. The funeral director is sitting with the family. They decide on Friday. The funeral director logs into My Crematorium or My Cemetery and have a look as the availability and can lock an availability at time right there and then. How easy is this, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what our system is all about.
Well, and we are such a society that wants immediate answers. We want it to be accommodating to us in everything we're doing. I mean, it's the order your food ahead and pick it up rather than wait there. It's, get online and order your grocery pickup for a specific time rather than have to do the grocery shopping kind of thing. So being able to get on and schedule, maybe it's a lack of talking to people and texting kind of thing, but it is also really streamlining our process within our business to lay out. What I liked about the My Crematorium was giving the status updates with the funeral home, like they've arrived, they're going to be cremated, they're going to be processed, they're going to be returned to you, or they're available for pickup kind of thing. Like it just kind of gives you updates along the way. I like that. I like to be updated. I like knowing what's going on, especially if the family's wondering. There are families that say, I want to know when my loved one goes into the cremator, into the retort, because they want to know when it's happening, like right as it's happening. And so you can give some of these updates when you have that tracking in place, if you don't have the cremation taking place within your facility.
Yeah.
I like that part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. How powerful is this? And, I know in our society right now, we run by time. We don't have time to do anything. Everything is a rush.
Yeah.
But I will probably suggest that in the cemetery and funeral industry, that is more true than anywhere else. I remember like it was yesterday, an individual that came and saw me, and her I think it was his wife that was in the process of passing. And he came from he went to the hospital. The doctor took him to that special room, sat him down and said, we have done everything that we can. We're done now. It's up, science has done as much as we could. So now you need to go and you need to leave your wife and you need to go to the cemetery and the funeral home and you need to go and talk to them. That individual that came and met with me knew that at any point of time, he could possibly never see his wife alive again. And yet he was talking to me. There was no way in hell, by the way, that he wanted to be in front of me. There was no way that he wanted to talk to me. And by the way, because of our process and difficult process and long process, he barely made it. But every second that he spent with me was seconds that he didn't have with his wife. That is not okay. Mm-hmm. We need to have a system that allows family to stay with their family, for us to be able to do business from afar, and yes, to let them know what's happening. I mean, the fear of the unknown is in all of us, but in those emotional situations, it's tragedies. So
definitely
we communicate effectively.
Well, thank you for all this information. I kind of want to close with your mission of All Funeral Services, which is, on your website and stuff, that All Funeral Services was founded on a realization that technology is redefining the way death care organizations operate today. And there's a clear need for a turnkey online solution platform that modernizes comprehensive death care management. Fans of technology, improvements, and integrations, experts in the death care industry, we create products for the people we work with. We thoughtfully develop, enhance, and customize our platform to make the daily work of our clients easier in cemetery management, inventory services, cremation management, and public solutions. I love that.
Yeah.
So much.
If you're listening to this video or podcast, or I don't know how we will call it, but if you're listening to Carrie, if you're listening to me, and first of all, you are a professional, and you're working in the cemetery, my message to you is this: there is tools now that allow you to do what you do best and to serve your family that will enhance your quality of life and your quality of work. Don't stand seated there and just wait for somebody to come and make it better. The tools are out there and they are affordable. So go and talk to your leader, tell them to come and give us a call, make sure that we have a chance to provide them with a demo, and please stay on it. I would love to know you, and I would love to understand what you're going through a little bit better and how we're gonna have all those pain points go away from you. And if you're the public and you're listening to us, you absolutely have the right to demand amazing services from the cemeteries and funeral home that serves you. And so if you're dissatisfied because you can't find your loved one or there's any disconnect, gently go and talk to the leadership there and say, there is better, there's other solutions out there, and, provide them with our website and have them come and phone us. We'll be happy to help them.
Well, thank you so much, David. And that website is allfuneral.com. Very simple. Check it out. Pass it on to anyone you think needs that information, your local cemetery, your local crematorium, your local funeral home. Pass the information on so things can be more readily available at your fingertips if that's what you would like. So thanks so much, David, for sharing this with us. And we'll talk to everyone soon. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.